So here's some of the pieces you're going to need to do this project. You don't need to necessarily buy the kit, but it's convenient because it's got everything you need in it. But here's a wood stove chimney kit, and wood stove chimney basic kit, and it's about 200 bucks. But it's got the cap and the ridge vent and all the pieces you need except for the pipe itself, actually. But it comes with the cap, it comes with all the collars, and it even comes with the box, which I have over by the stove, which we'll show you here in just a second. It does not come with that black elbow. That's just a black elbow that I had purchased and now I found out that I don't need. But just be aware that this triple wall pipe is what's going to kill you. So if you're like me and you have to go through a finished part to get to your stove, just realize that that finished part upstairs is what's going to cost you a whole boatload of money, because those are about $100 a piece. And if you luck out, you can find them at Home Depot, I believe, for about $73 a piece instead of $99 a piece. I did get Tractor Supply to match that. So that was awesome to basically buy 3, get 1 free, as opposed to having to pay 99 bucks for them each. But yeah, all this stuff actually came from Tractor Supply. So between Tractor Supply, you should be able to get everything that you need, which is nice because there weren't many other stove places near me. Here's how we're moving the stove around. Much easier on a floor jack. But essentially what we need to do is mark where we want it to go up through and then start assembling. So what we do is we put a T on the back, and on the bottom of that T is a cap, and that's so we have a clean out. So you just slide the T on, and once you have the T on, you start assembling it. And you would think you do it with the slide and fitting being up, because everyone would, I guess maybe me, before I did my research, thought you'd want it to be this way so that the smoke seam would be okay. But actually, you're not really worried about the smoke. Apparently, you're worried about the creosote buildup. And so what you want to do is have it so the creosote can drip down the entire chimney. You're not really worried about the smoke. And there's a guy on YouTube, I've seen a couple videos, where they take a match and they'll put the match right up against here and watch the smoke actually get sucked in once you have your fire going and everything else with your draft. So yeah, you want to make sure again that your crimps are facing down, your flats are facing up. So we're gonna snap a few more of these on and then start to get ready. Just kind of line it up and see where we're at, and then we'll start assembling the triple wall. But first, let me show you how to put a few of these black stovepipes together, because they come split and you have to figure out how to put those together first, because that's the first step. Here's the 6-inch black stovepipe, and it comes split. And if you look at the end of it, you can see how it's kind of like a tongue and groove type deal, where this side is going to go underneath the flap on this side. So what we're going to do is try and assemble this. Let's see if I can do it one-handed. Should be able to push down on this one here, the far side, and this close one should just kind of slide in. So let's see if we can't do this. One-handed is going to be pretty difficult, I think. We're going to try. Set it up on top here. Okay, we kind of got it sort of in the right spot. Now what we're going to do is just push down on this sucker and see if we can't get it to slide together. Yeah, I wish I could show you one-handed, but I'm going to need both hands, so I'm going to set this down for a second. See if you can come up with a rig here to hold this. Okay, here's your 6-inch pipe. And like I mentioned, it goes together. So let's see if we can't do this. we go. And just like that, it snapped together. So we'll have to make it a little more circular and a little less oblong. But that's how you get the pipe snapped together. So now that we've got one together, we will never focus, but now we've got one together. We're just gonna assemble a few more, and then we'll walk over to the stove and start assembling the pipes on the stove itself. So we put our snap lock fitting in the top there and pre-measured our black pipe, and this is how much we have to trim off. So I'm just gonna use my handy dandy angle grinder here, and we're gonna trim off the excess that we don't need and then fit the black pipe up. We got our black stove pipe put together. Now you do have to have a minimum clearance, at least for code for me, is 9 inches from the stove pipe and 12 inches from the side of the radiant style stove. And that's with a barrier. So I've got some steel left over from when I sided the barn that'll be going on the wall there. So I had to make sure that once I studded out and put this where it's going to be, that there's at least a 12-inch gap between here and here. And so make sure when you're placing your stove that you follow the local codes. But for me, it was 9 inches from the pipe and 12 inches from a radiant style stove. I think the other style of stove, which I forget what it's called at the moment, was only something like 6 inches or something crazy like that. So yeah, so I've drilled a little pilot hole so I can test my plumb bob, and we just made sure everything lined up and everything does. So the next thing we're doing is mounting this support box or ceiling box, which you frame it out. It's a 14.5 by 14.5 square, and we'll nail that in place. And it's supposed to have, according to the instructions, hang at least 2 inches below where your finished ceiling is going to be. So just make sure when you're mounting it that you follow the instructions. It'll come with all the instructions that you need, and get her mounted up. We got our black stove pipe here all assembled and put together. And the next thing we had to do was cut a hole and box in the ceiling support. So it's 14.5 inches by 14.5 inches square. So you should be 14.5 inches between your rafters. And then you just need to create a square to put them in on this side. Then it says you just use some nails to actually nail this in place. And there's supposed to be a 2-inch gap between where your ceiling is and here. So I did 2.5 inches from my frame in case I ever put 1/2-inch drywall on. I'll still have the 2-inch clearance that talks about this supposed to be that this box is supposed to hang down below when it comes to your ceiling. So all we did was just cut a hole, and we actually just cut it square, so we made sure we had all our clearances, because you do have to have clearances on everything. I can't remember what the distance is for triple wall. It's something like 6 inches maybe. So you'll be close. Actually, it's gonna be, I think that's double wall, 6 inches. So but yeah, we just cut the square in the floor the same size as the box, so we made sure we have as much clearance as possible. Now what we're gonna do is go upstairs and hang our plumb bob and start cutting holes, bringing it down. So we're gonna put our plumb bob up against the ceiling and run her down till we're centered up. And once we know we're centered up, we'll put a mark where we want to drill through. I said I wasn't sure what the clearance was, but for this triple wall, it's 2 inches. So it's a 2-inch clearance that you have to have from combustibles for the triple wall pipe. So we've cut the hole, we've got the box in. That's the ceiling support. We started stacking up the triple wall up towards the ceiling. Now that little hole is not actually the center. The center that I need to drill my hole is where that red dot is. And then you can see I marked the edges of where the flashing is going to be. And this is the flashing. That's just so I knew where, anything is going to be in my way. And of course, the purling or the support on this is in the way. So I have to cut some of it out, but I'm going to cut as little as possible. So what I need to do is just measure the distance or the width here of from edge to edge, and then I'll cut out the wood, and then I got these two boards here that I'll nail from here to here to make sure that I support that middle purling now that it's going to be removed. So that's what we're going to do next. Let's cut that out. Let's get the other boards screwed up, and then we'll start cutting the hole in the ceiling, or in the roof, I should say. You know, before we go crazy here, I just want to mention too, as you can see, that's 3 sections that are 3 foot long. So that's 9 foot width of pipe. If I put one more 3-footer on there, I would not be meeting the clearance for code. So the code is that if you're within 10 feet of the peak or 10 feet of anything, you're supposed to be 2 foot above whatever the highest thing is close to you, which is normally the peak. If you're more than 10 feet away from anything else that's on the roof, i.e. the peak of the roof or another vent or something else, then you must be 3 foot above where it penetrates the roof. So what we're going to do is we're going to be 3 feet above the penetration of the roof, means we're going to have at least 2 more sections. Because one more section will get me out the roof, but I'm going to need at least one more 3-foot section to make sure that I meet code in being at least 3 feet above where it penetrates the roof. Here's how we cut the hole in the center. I drilled the hole there and I put a screw in it, and I took a piece of tape that was the diameter that I needed, a piece of string, and I just put a permanent marker on it and went in a circle, and that's how I cut my hole. And this was just my first attempt when this board was still in the way, and I had to cut that board out of the way to get my measurements correct. But that's the size that we need to cut, so we're going to go ahead and cut the hole now. There's no going back now, the hole is cut. So the flashing is in, so all we're going to do now is go up on the roof, put some silicone all over the place, and then screw it down, and then we'll put this pipe up through. Just to be extra safe and secure things, we went ahead and put some supports in there, since that cross member is no longer being supported. So now it's being supported by those. So just to give it some more support before we go up on our roof and start screwing it all together. What we do is we just put some screws down. And after we put the screws down, we put a nice generous coating of silicone everywhere. And that's one spot where, unfortunately, when I was circ sawing, I nicked the roof, which stinks, but that's okay. Put some silicone on that too. So we've got some screws in here, and we got the silicone down, and now we'll let that dry, and then we'll start getting the pipe up through and the storm collar on. Here's the final product. After you get the hole and everything and all your screws and stuff all siliconed up, you put the storm collar on, and the storm collar is adjustable, so you just put it through the slot, and after you have the slot adjusted to the size of your pipe, you fold the tab over, and that tightens it up, and you're supposed to put a bead of silicone around that storm collar so no water that hits your pipe runs down, and then your chimney cap just pushes down in. So I'm going to pull that sticker off here before I get off the roof, but essentially, there we go, we have the final product. Alrighty, so we're all done. We got the damper in, everything's ran, the cap's on outside, and the fire's going. So I gotta go get some wood as opposed to just this scrap lumber that I threw in here right now. But I just wanted to get something burning just to see if it was working, and sure enough it is, and the draft is great. So we should be all set. So hopefully this helps you out. If you had any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments. I'll try to respond. And good luck with your project.